Which is better, free trade or protectionism? The answer? It depends. The debate brings to mind President Truman's old quip, "Give me a one-handed economist." All my economists say, on one hand, on the other. So in that spirit, on one hand, if you're a steel plant worker who is out of a job because cheap foreign steel is flooding the US market, protectionism probably looks really good. On the other hand, as a consumer, you might think free trade is the way to go if it means paying less for a foreign car or even a can of Coke. Those are micro examples. Free trade versus protectionist tariffs also brings up a macroeconomic issue. That'd be the trade balance. If the U.S. imports more goods and services than it exports, that's a trade deficit, something that President Trump frequently tweets about. On the other hand, if the U.S. exports more than it imports, that's a trade surplus. Mr. Trump sees a dollar spent outside the U.S. as a dollar lost. But many economists do not worry a lot about running a trade deficit. They argue that when Americans buy foreign goods, let's say from China, they pay with dollars. Those dollars eventually come back to the U.S. in the form of investments. That could be a sizable chunk of change headed back to the U.S., considering the trade deficit was $568 billion in 2017. That's up from $505 billion in 2016. Let's talk balance. The Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930 showed the dangers of runaway trade wars. In 1922, the U.S. passed tariffs averaging 40%, and European countries retaliated. Then came Smoot-Hawley, hiking them by another 20%. Then came more retaliation. U.S. trade with Europe fell by about two-thirds, and overall global trade declined by similar levels before the tariffs were reduced in 1934. That extreme example would seem to argue for free trade. However, free trade also has downsides, things like trade deficits and job losses. Here's a basic example. A shirt made in a country where labor is cheaper is going to sell for less in the United States than a domestic-made shirt. That means more shirts will be imported into the country than are exported out. And before long, shirt manufacturers in the U.S. will have to lay off their workers, while foreign shirt plants will hire more workers. It's a lose-lose, and it's a win-win. Where does public opinion come down on the debate? Cheap shirts or laid-off workers? On one hand, on the other, Pew Research found that Americans' views of tariffs being imposed between the United States and some of its trading partners tilt more negative than positive. 49% say tariffs will be bad for our country, and 40% say they're going to help. 11% say they don't know what to make of this. One thing's for sure, the free trade versus protectionism debate is not going away anytime soon, if ever. And anyone who says they have all the answers usually doesn't.